For today's class, we will be taking a short break from watercolor, although we might use a little bit of watercolor later on. And I'm going to just go over the basics on how to draw hands. So hands is probably one of the more technical things to draw when it comes to drawing people. And it is best if we had to simplify it first. So I'm going to pull up some examples of hand drawings. So here's an example of a hand drawing. So if we look at it, we can see that it is quite complex, but the artists have employed ways to make it much more simple. For example, you can see the structures within the hand. And you can see how the joints have been simplified as little circles. All of the joints have been simplified as little circles. So these are all techniques that we will be employing today with our hand drawings. And the goal is to fill up our entire...
Wait, Gwen?
Hello?
Wait. Oh, hi. It's Angela.
Hi, Angela.
Hi. I'm not at home, so I'm just watching, but I didn't know that you teach hand, and that's what I want to learn, but I will watch it, okay?
Yes, it's fine. You can follow along again at home and draw them.
Okay, yeah.
So the goal for today is to fill up this entire page with...
Teacher,
Yes,
teacher,
hello.
please make the picture, okay? The hand picture. I want to use the hand, the picture.
Yeah, for sure.
Another one. Yeah. One moment. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Everyone take a picture.
Yeah.
This.
It's okay.
Okay. So the goal for today is to fill up our entire page with hands in different poses and try to just practice using the techniques that we will be learning today.
Teacher, I want to ask, last week the picture is not finished, right?
Last week the picture is finished.
Finished?
Yeah. But if you want it, I can put it up again. Does anyone still need the picture from last week?
Yeah, I see not finished like this.
Okay, if the picture from last week.
Yes, last picture is finished.
Yeah, not finished, right?
Yeah,
This
yes.
strawberry is not finished. The strawberry, only the orange.
Last week's class, we finished the strawberries.
Yeah, it's finished.
But if you missed the lesson, it's still on YouTube, and feel free to follow along with that to finish up this drawing.
Okay.
Mhm.
I need to finish.
Okay, so first, I'm going to put up a picture of a hand, and I'm going to try to teach everyone how to simplify it So first, we're going to just be looking at a flat hand. So this is the picture that we will be drawing first, so everyone can take a picture of it.
Okay. Yeah.
It's woman, man. One. It's for woman, San, yeah?
Yes, it's probably. I'm not sure.
No, it's for woman.
We will be drawing all kinds of different hands today. But the first one, I wanted to make it as easy as possible. So first, if we look at the hand, we can see that we can separate it into three simple parts. First is the main body of the hand, and then the fingers, and then the arms. So usually when we start with our hands, we want to start drawing from the main body of the hand. So we can simplify that into a simple rectangle like this. So this is the main body of the hand where our fingers are going to extend from. And then from here, we will be drawing the muscle underneath the thumb, the thumb, which is a little triangle like this. So this is how we usually want to start off drawing the hand. So just a rectangle with a triangle beside it. And from here, our thumb and our finger will extend. And if we look at the fingers, we'll see that there are three joints, three main joints. One at the base of the finger, and two more along the finger. So this is the same for all the fingers except for the thumb, which only has two joints, one at the base of the thumb and one on the thumb. So first, we will just draw in our joints at the base of the hand. So here I'm placing the joint for the thumb, and then we can use our pencil to sketch a slightly curved line to show where the joints are going to rest on. And then draw the four joints like this. So they're slowly curving down. And from here, we can see that on the surface of the hand, we can see exactly where the fingers are descending from. So they're all coming to this one point on the wrist. So we're just going to draw them in. I forgot exactly what these are called. I'm going to find out right now. Yeah, so these are the tendons that stretch all the way from the base of the hand to the tip of the fingers. And so we draw them in coming from the wrist. And then we can extend them from the joint. Keep extending them upwards. To kind of create like a skeleton of our hands. So if we look at the fingers, we can see that the middle finger is the tallest point. So from that, we can create a curved line like this to help us find the height of the fingers. So the fingers are going to be shorter than the base of the hand. So you can measure that with your pencil to make sure that the fingers are shorter than the base of the hand. So from there, we can put a dot at the top of the hands and find the rest of the joints along the finger. So now that we know the total length of the fingers, we can put a point directly in the middle of these lines. So this is where the first joint is going to be, the joint in the middle of your fingers. So we can place a smaller circle along this line to find the middle joint of the finger, this one. And then we can put a dot in between the middle joint and the tip. And this will be the joint at the end of the fingers. And then we can also put one the middle of the thumb. You can adjust them as you go. And before we can finish drawing in the hand, we have to understand what the hands look like, what the fingers look like from this side. So, the fingers on the side looks like this. So the base joint, tip of the fingers. We have bone connecting these joints at the top of our fingers. So this is the top of our fingers. So if we lay our fingers flat, we can see that it is pretty much flat except for little bumps that are the joints. So this is the bone. This is the hard part of our fingers. And then if we see the lower part, it's mostly fat. So this is because the bones and tendons are being curved up like this, allowing the lower part to be little fat pads on your fingers. So this part, so to draw the top part, you will mostly be using straight lines and little curves for the joints. And for the lower part, you will be using more rounded lines, curved lines like this. So now to draw in the fingers, basically just draw in the fingers how you see them. And with that, you should get the basic shape of a hand, although this one is kind of off. But it's fine. We will get more practice in later on with different hands. So now that we know how the back of a hand is constructed, we can look at the palm of the hands. So if we look at the palm of a hand, we can see that we can no longer see the joints of our hands. What we mostly see are the fats, the muscles, as well as the folds along the skin of the hands. So everyone can take a picture of this, and we can quickly sketch out our palm. So Let's start by sketching the palm of the hand. So for the palm, it's basically pretty much the same. We start with a rectangular shape. And then we add a triangle on the side for the thumb. And we can curve the top of the hand like this and draw in lines for the fingers. So also drawing a curve at the top with the middle finger being the highest point. Roughly drawing the fingers, as well as the thumb. And on the fingers, we can see that instead of the joints, we can see that there are folds, little fold lines where the joints are supposed to be. So we will draw in at the base of the finger, and then about little less than halfway, we draw the second fold. So a little less than halfway up the finger, and then a little more than halfway up that, we draw the next fold. Like this. And this is the basic details on the fingers. And then if we look at the base of the hands, we can see that there are usually two big fold lines across the hand, like that. And then we see two really important muscles on the hands that allows you to close your hands in like this. So one of them is at the base of the thumb, and one of them is at the other end below the pinky. So we usually draw these in as using big teardrop shapes. So one teardrop here, and one teardrop here. So they're really big, but we never draw them touching. So these two muscles, they don't touch. So these are two of the three teardrops. The third teardrop is on the other side, is on the upper view of the hands. And it's between the thumb and the pointer finger, right in this space here. So with that, we can draw the fold lines on the wrist of the hand. And then draw the wrist down. So far, we have only been drawing hands on a flat plane. So in order to draw more complex poses, we'll have to move away from a 2D plane. So to do that, I will demonstrate with a third and a last hand that we will use for practice. So if we took this picture, we can see that it is no longer a flat pose. It's a very much complex pose. So everyone can take a picture of this and we will practice. So with this hand, we can see that it is pointing upwards and away from us. So if the hand is pointing upwards and away, that means we will have to be able to see the underside of our rectangle. So from now on, instead of drawing a flat rectangle, we will have to start drawing a 3D rectangle where we can always see 3 sides of the rectangle. We can always see 3 sides of the rectangle like this. So if we look at the picture, the 3 sides of the rectangle we should be able to see are the front-facing side, the side with the thumb, and because it's pointing away, we can now see the bottom part of the rectangle. So to draw this, I will first just roughly sketch in the front-facing, the flat side of the rectangle. So we always start on the front side of the rectangle, like this. So it's kind of twisted and warped into a kind of diamond shape because when it's flat, it's a rectangle, but when it's pointing away, we can see how the lines are converging towards each other because of perspective. So now it's becoming more like a diamond shape. So we can use this rectangle as a reference. And if you have similar shapes like this at home, it can be very helpful to use. So basically we have the front of the rectangle. And now using a reference, I can see that the side and bottom part of the rectangle are like this. So how I drew this is I drew 3 lines down from the rectangle and make sure that they are close to being perpendicular, close to being parallel. So they should be basically pointing in the same direction. And then I drew another paraline down following these sides. And then from here, I can draw in the triangle where the thumb comes out. So after drawing the triangle, I'm going to extend the wrist down, following the reference. And then I'm going to draw in the two teardrop shapes. So in this picture, we can see that the teardrop below the thumb is very obvious. So we will draw that in. So it's roughly starts at the middle of the rectangle and extends all the way to the end. So that's my first teardrop. And then the second teardrop is much lighter. And it's just right here. And from there, I can start drawing in the joints. For the thumb, and roughly sketching out where the fingers are using skeleton lines. Like that. Make sure that their heights are right. And don't forget about the thumb. So now that I have the height of the fingers down, I'm going to separate them, cut them into their joints, so you can ensure that the height of your fingers are right by using a pencil and measuring on the reference picture. So it should be roughly the same length as the base of your hands, like that. So from here, I'm gonna put dots for the joints. and then start connecting them. So first I drew in the thumb. And I'm also going to start drawing the fingers, one joint at a time. Make sure to keep the thickness accurate the entire time. So just think of the fingers like little tubes. And also make sure to account for the distance between the fingers. And now, make sure to draw in the fold lines along the hand. Or make any adjustments. And make sure that for the wrist, that it's also a 3D shape. So now, this is basically just a sketch. I'm going to slightly erase it and start on the final hand. So slowly fine line your hand. Get in all the details like the fingernails, And for the fingers, make sure to draw using straight lines and curved lines to capture the joints. You can see very clearly on the picture that there are straight lines and then curved lines showing where the joints are. Wherever there is a joint, you can see the finger gets wider and then thinner and then wider again. So that is an important detail for us to capture. Make sure to draw in all the different fold lines. Make sure to capture all the little details, but we don't want too many details. If you go in and try to draw in every single fold line on the fingers or the hands, it will start to overcrowd the piece. Only draw in the biggest ones. The ones that are necessary, because more isn't always better in this case. And sometimes you can draw curved lines on the surfaces like this to show that it is a rounded and 3D shape. You can also do that on the wrist to make it more believable. And this is not necessary, but you can definitely shade your hands a little if that's what you want. it's very important that you do the straight line versus curved line contrast to help capture the joints, the boniness of the fingers, or else they will just look like random shapes. They will look like spaghetti fingers. So it's very important to make the distinction between bone and flesh. Like that. You can clearly see that this is a joint. Same over here. And the other side, curved lines like these are just the fat pads on your fingers. This is fat. This is fat. This is fat. And this is also fat. And this is clearly a joint. And also darken the fold lines to match it closer to the reference picture. So we've utilized the box drawing technique here. As well as drawing the basic shapes for the muscles and drawing circles for the joints. So I will give everyone some time to finish up drawing this hand. And sometimes you might think practicing drawing these hands are tedious and they kind of look boring just as is. One thing that a lot of artists tend to do after drawing hands or human sketches, studies like this, is taking their watercolor and just color around your drawing like this, just to give it a little more visual interest. One, it will help you better provide contrast to your drawings. Like with this, we can definitely see the hand better. It is definitely popping out of the page a little more. And it's also a better way to make your sketches, your studies like this, more colorful and more interesting to look at. Just a little bit like this. And now I will move on. I'll give everyone a second to finish up before we move on to our next hand. So obviously, every hand is different. So not every rule will apply to every hand, but this is just the general rule when it comes to drawing accurate hands. So for our next hand, we're going to be drawing one where we see the back of the hand. So everyone can take a picture of this. So we can see that this area over here is taken up by muscles. But it is not as visible, but you can kind of see that this part is one of our teardrop shapes. So let's start. So like always, we want to start with the rectangle. So looking at this hand, it is kind of going like this, pointing away from us. So if it's pointing away from us, we should be able to see the underside of our rectangle. So here, we see the top side of the rectangle, the underside, and the right side. So with this, I will now draw in the triangle with the teardrop right at the center here. So it's curved at the teardrop. And this is where our wrist starts. So we can bring that out. So you can see that it kind of follows the structure of the rectangle. So we can draw in little rounded guidelines like that. And if you look at the tendons, so these protruding vein-like things, we can see that they're all heading to the same direction, same place here. So we can put a dot here and bring our fingers out. We can also see one very clearly coming from the thumb. There's a hollow area here. And from here, I'm going to draw in the curve of the hand as well as the joints, the base joints like this. And now, if we measure the reference picture, you can see that in this picture, the fingers are roughly the same length as the base of the hands. So if we measure that with our pencil, you can see that the fingers roughly go to here. And we can roughly sketch it out like this. We can see that our middle finger and our pointer finger are placed together. So we can draw them together like this. And we can curve it down to find the pinky as well as the ring finger, like that. So right now, we're just roughly boxing these fingers up and not adding any details. Now, I'm drawing in the thumb with the joints very clearly. So now that I have the fingers roughly sketched out, I can start adding the details. So first, we can bring our tendons up. And from the first joint to the tip of the finger, in the middle, we see our first joint. And then from the middle joint to the tip of the fingers, we can find the third joint right in the middle, a little bit higher than the middle. And we can draw them in. Now, we can slowly carve out the details with the straights and curves. So if you see here, unlike our other hand, where the joints are being curved, we can see that it's kind of curving in towards the joint. So it's kind of curving on the fat parts and not on the joint. That is because from this angle, on this person's hand, the fats are folding in at the joints like that. That's why there are excessive folds here. So this is why every hand is different, and you really have to observe to get it exactly accurate. And don't forget to draw in the fingernails. So if we look at the pointer finger, we'll see that here it is getting wider at the joints. So each finger can be a little bit different. And don't forget to draw in the fingernails. So what we're doing right now is fairly detailed hand drawings. Usually when people are doing figure drawings, where they have to capture the entire human in under a set time limit, there is not enough time to really go through the hands and draw out everything in detail. And so instead, people will simplify it. So instead of drawing every finger out in full detail, usually artists, they will skip that step and sometimes draw the fingers sticking together. And like the one here, they might make it look like this. So they put the fingers that are grouped together as one. You can still see that it is much bigger than the other fingers because it is 2 fingers. But just for the sake of time, they will make it be together to save time and simplify. So now, this is going to lightly erase everything so that I can, again, go over it and only darken the necessary details. And you can add any necessary shading that you would like. Make sure to include the lines here, the tendons in the final piece. They're very important for hand drawings. And now, I'm going to add a little bit of color to this one as well. I'm going to add a different color this time. And you can also write in the date that you drew these on the side so that you can always go back and check to see your improvements. Since the key to drawing anything is to practice lots. So I will give everyone a few more seconds to finish up this hand. We can also add in the little joints with circles if you want to have a little bit more understructure. Sometimes showing understructure and your construction in a drawing is a very good idea, like retaining parts of the rectangle, like that was the bottom of the rectangle that we had drawn. It can help you learn faster for sure if you retain some of the understructure. So, moving on to our last hand for the day, we're going to be drawing a front-facing hand like this. So this can be a little tricky because our hand here is foreshortened, which means it's very much distorted because of the angle it is at. So I will now start sketching for the third hand. So because the hand is pointing at us, we should be able to see the bottom part of the rectangle, which is the palm, as well as the front of the rectangle. So first, I'm just drawing in the palm, the front of the palm, curving the top, and then drawing the top of the palm like that. So this is not like the other rectangles because the angle that we're drawing at is very weird. So here, I will just put circles for the fingers to come out of, like that. And then before we put in the thumb, I want to put in the 2 teardrops, which automatically connects into the triangle and gives us the thumb. Like this. Then I'm just going to erase my mistake here. And then all I did was move it higher a little bit. I'm going to draw the pointer finger, but as you can see, it's very short because it's pointing forward and perspective shortens it. Like here, this is the regular length, but if I point it forwards, it gets shorter and shorter and shorter. So this is what is happening here. Then do the same with the middle finger. You can see where it folds down at the joints. Like that. You can see that this is one joint and it curves down a bit, and the last joint like this. And then for our 4th finger, we can see that it curves down here at the first joint like this. So we can draw a circle for the first joint, and then from there, we can just bring the finger down like that. And I won't draw in the fingernail just yet, because we have to make sure the fingernail is in perspective. Then the little finger is also the same, curving down at the first joint. Like that. So I'm going to also draw in these little lines. And before we draw in the fingernails, we need to make sure that we are not making them flat. So what I'm saying is our fingernails are curved. They're curved to fit the shape of our fingers. So what we don't want to do is draw them flat like that. That wouldn't be accurate. So we have to make sure that we follow the curves of our fingers like this. So curved. So now I'm going to finally draw in the fingernails, making sure that they are curved like that. To fit the fingernails, to fit the fingers. Like that. And you can kind of see part of the arms down here. So, like always, I'm just going to take my eraser and lightly brush it against my drawing. I don't want to erase too much, but I do want to lighten it so I can go in and slowly fine line it, drawing in all of the details. And you can also do some shading. To really elevate the piece. And also make sure to curve the fingernails, but also the joints. So the folds on the joints should never be flat. There should always be a curve to it, depending on which way the finger is facing. Like here, it's curving on both of these. Joints. And I'm also going to finish off with a little bit of watercolor. I think it really elevates a piece. It really makes doing studies less tedious if you can have a nice final product to show for it. So these are the 3 hands that we drew today. So class is almost over. I hope everyone was able to
Yeah, like this one.
complete. Yes. Ooh, that looks very nice.
Thank you. Is the last?
Yeah, I think very nice.
Thank you.
Yes, I like how you drew in the details.
This is my hand.
Oh, did you
This is
use
my
your
picture.
hand?
Yes, did my
That's
hand.
really good. That's a very good practice to take your own hand and try to
Yes,
draw it.
like that.
Cheers.
Ooh,
Thank you. Thank you.
Jerry's and Angela's all have very nice hands.
Thank
Good
you.
job. Yeah, so that's also a really good practice,
Yes.
is drawing from life using your own hands. Definitely a
Yes.
challenge worth trying.
Yes. Yes. Good.
Everyone have did very nice work today.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
teacher.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Good
teacher.
thank you,
I like
teacher.
that. It's
Thank you.
interesting.
Thank
sir.
you,
I like
everyone.
this.
Interesting.
I like
class.
this class.
Yeah, we can do more of these studies in the future.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
guys.
Okay. Good.
Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you, teacher. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you
Thank
guys next
you.
week.
See you next time.
See you.
See you. Thank you, everyone.